are critically important ecosystems. They actually provide habitat to 25% of marine species. Coral is a really tiny little animal, and by secreting a limestone skeleton, has the ability to create a 3D complex structure that can be hundreds of kilometers in size. This then provides shelter, homes and habitats to all stages of marine organisms. Zanzibar is known for its beautiful marine diversity, and tourists come to Zanzibar specifically to see the amazing animals.
When I talk about Zanzibar, I talk about Mnemba. It's like a jewel for Zanzibar, the area that plays a very important role in terms of tourism.
Mnemba Island Marine Conservation Area is one among the 5 MPAs in Zanzibar, which is surrounded by coral reef and fish stocks.
And Beyond has been present on Mnemba since the early 90s, very much community and conservation driven. The business model on Mnemba is ecotourism. We're on the island of the lodge, and it's very dependent on ecological status of the atoll. It's very important for us to ensure that the atoll is conserved properly.
When I talk about blue economy, for us to be able to prosper in terms of tourism, in terms of fisheries, we need the ocean that is in a very good healthy. So we can't achieve that without protection.
When you talk about conservation, you're talking about people. When you go to the culture of the coastal people, their first livelihood depends on the fishing activities.
Uwepo ile bahari tunapata faraja kwa sababu huku kwetu hatuna mgomba, hatuna mihogo. Sasa bahari ina umuhimu sana. Lakini badala kuvunjwa ni matumbawe ya asili, kwa kweli bahari mambo yaliharibika. Kuharibika ikawa yale mapato hamna mazuri sana.
The very interesting message from the community is the agenda of the climate change. They are seeing the changes.
The stresses that are experienced globally on coral reefs are being experienced around northern Ugunja as well. So the reefs are facing very high levels of resource use.
Mnemba for Zanzibar is like a gold place, whereby you've got boat captains bring guests to come do snorkeling and diving.
Like a mass tourism, because if you see up to 300 boats in the same day, it's too much. That's why coral reef are degraded, it's remaining only 20%.
Between 2019 and 2022, we had over 800% increase in tourism on that reef. The Mnemba House Reef reduced its coral cover by 55%.
So that's why we decided to talk with the Beyond and the Africa Foundation, government and the community. So we'll collaborate and develop this area together and conserve it in collaboration.
So we sat together, we have developed a plan. We discussed the possibility of having an artificial reef to spread the visitors that are coming off, to have more options that people can go.
The artificial reef is an important component of the bigger conservation picture of Mnemba. It provides an alternative site for snorkeling and diving, which reduces pressures on the other shallow water reefs. Once these artificial reefs are fully productive and the corals have grown to maturity, it increases the diversity of the ecosystem. There's just more coral, there'll be more fish for fishermen, a more resilient system. To do the artificial reef, so obviously the first phase was research on the ecological viability of this. We raised funding from Beyond and from EOCA through Africa Foundation and our Oceans Without Borders program. Then we engaged with the communities and asked them what they thought and where they would like to see the reef being built. Then the first step was to build the structures they made out of metal rebar.
It took about 5 to 6 days to get all 6 structures made. We drew a figure in the sand, and then we used metal to bend the rebar and get into the shapes required. Just weld it together in order to make the structures. And then we got an intern welder, came from the local community, and he came and he learned how you create strong structures using rebar and welding. Being rainy season, it's very hard to weld in the rain, so that was a big challenge. So in order to get the structures to the water, it takes 4 200-litre containers tied to the structures. We then get about 5 or 6 people to carry the structures to the water, and we launch it into the water like that. So the structures are placed about 3 kilometers just off Mnemba Island. So they fall into the MIMCA protected area. So it's still protected under the Fisheries Acts. It's also been selected by the sharehas or the local communities. And they've used to say that that's the best area that they feel for the artificial reef to be.
And coincidentally, their preference was exactly the sites that we chose. I brought in 2 specialists who do a lot of work on artificial reefs, and they helped locate the site, so that all worked very nicely. Then the next phase is to fill them with large coral rock. It's very important that the rocks are large so they don't move in the currents.
What we used was actual what we call live rock, which is actually ideal because it constitutes old coral skeleton, which is perfect then for the settlement of marine organisms because it just mimics the natural structure entirely.
And then the third phase is to repopulate it with coral from the coral nursery. Fits in nicely with our coral restoration program on these degraded reefs.
It's really, really important if you want a successful artificial structure that it mimics the natural surrounding coral reefs in terms of diversity and structure. We look for what we call corals of opportunity. So corals naturally break off. We collect those corals that are still alive. We put them onto little coral discs and we let them mature in the coral nursery. And once they are in a mature state and they're healthy, we then transplant them onto the artificial reef.
Obviously our CNC team, they are from the communities and they've been trained over a period of 2 years in internship, how to grow corals, how to maintain the corals.
We have a team of 4 community and conservation rangers. They are our champions who carry our message about leaving our oceans a better place. They get into the water every day. They run this project. And then they do the maintenance to make sure that the corals that we've put on the reef don't get smothered by algae. And then we do monitoring. It's really important to monitor the structures to know how successful are your structures being, what marine creatures are actually being attracted to your structures.
So we have varied depth, some shallow, some deep, so it can facilitate divers and snorkelers. And then also ecologically that they were deep enough so the corals stay cool, so they don't bleach. And also close enough to some natural corals so you get cross-population from corals and other organisms onto the artificial reef.
My hopes for the project are that it'll bring its own unique characteristic to Zanzibar with the turtle and the starfish. Very exciting to have more opportunities for people to go onto reefs to see different types of marine life.
The success of the artificial reef, we've witnessed it from the first day. So when we drop them down to the water and start to build up with rocks, before even the life was there are people who wanted to go and see.
Kuhusu matumbawe bandia, mimi kama mimi nishawahi kuwapeleka pale wageni, wamefurahi sana, wameenjoy sana. Waza wanaona ajabu, yani kutengezwa ile kasa, yani ilikuwa ni amazing. Na vile vile palikuwa na samaki kibao. Na mpaka sasa hivi tayari samaki washafanya kama mazalia yao. Kwa hiyo samaki wamekuwa wameongezeka wengi tu. Safi sana mbona.
So I think these reefs are going to be incredibly important supporting the artisanal fisheries because they're going to enhance fish stocks.
The long-term plan is to really bring back the ecological status of the marine environment. The artificial reef is an important component of the bigger conservation picture of Mnemba. And it's part of the bigger co-management agreement that And Beyond has with the Ministry of Blue Economy for the Mnemba Island Marine Special Area that is around Mnemba Island.
So special area before it was 200 meters on both sides at Kichwani and House Reef. But now we increased it to 500 meters. If we increase this area, we can increase also the fee, $25. Instead of $3 and a lot of people, if we can minimize the number of tourists to come here, we can increase the fund and the benefit to the local community will be better than this time.
It will increase the financial conservation revenues to the communities by 1,100% and more, which is significant to the communities.
Tourism activities will proceed but with control. So number of boats, we agreed to be 2 boats with maximum of like 7 people at a time, 1 hour, and then they go out and another boat comes in. So now When the boats are waiting for their turn to go to the Mnemba area, they go around the artificial reef and they guess they can do activities there.
Tunashukuru sana kwa sababu hii hifadhi tunaitumia kwa kuleta wageni, na wageni wanakuja kuangalia coral na samaki pale. Kwa sababu ikiwa coral hamna na samaki hamna, kikweli wageni hatokuja na wala hatovutiwa na kuja kuangalia sehemu tupu tu pale.
All government, through blue economy and the fisheries, private sectors and beyond, and the local community, all of us will benefit from increasing this area.
So yeah, it brings together a nice big conservation and community involvement and development program that will work really well. So the artificial reef will take a lot of tourist pressure off the Mnemba House Reef. We are busy with the restoration program of that reef, so it will also ensure that restoration program works, which is phase 1.
2021, the project was started. We had about 23 coral tables where we were growing coral fragments. And to date, we have 40 coral tables, and we have planted about 5,800 colonies onto the Mnemba House Reef to try and restore the coral cover and then increase the diversity.
Obviously, phase 2 would be, once we've restored the house reef, we'll then start working with the Ministry of the Economy on restorations of other shallow reefs around the atoll. The governments have indicated that if this model works, they will duplicate it in other areas around Mnemba.
We have big plans going forward.